You can dedicate your entire life to trying to understand yourself, reading countless books on self-discovery, attending endless therapy sessions, moving cities, changing careers, starting and ending relationships. And even so, you may find yourself trapped in the same patterns, the same empty feelings, the same wounds that refuse to leave. But what if I told you that no real change can happen until you uncover a crucial truth about your relationship with your mother? It might sound too simple, maybe even cliché, yet according to Carl Jung, one of the greatest pioneers of depth psychology, there is a key aspect of this bond that most people never recognize. And overlooking it can imprison you in endless cycles of self-sabotage, emotional dependence, anxiety, and even psychosomatic disorders. Jung's insights about the maternal influence extend far beyond the traditional image of childhood. He revealed how the maternal figure leaves a deep imprint not only on our personalities, but also on how we interact with the world, build relationships, and perceive ourselves. If you've ever felt trapped in life, feeling like you're running in circles despite all efforts to break free, then this message is for you. And if you seek reflections that truly challenge your inner world, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Here, we go deep. No superficial promises, no magic solutions, just profound perspectives that can truly transform. Take a deep breath. Now, what you're about to hear could change forever the way you see your mother and your entire life story. From the very first moments of existence, even before we consciously know the world, we sense her presence. The mother, not just as the biological woman who gave birth to us, but as the first great psychic force we experience. Carl Jung understood the figure of the mother far beyond the traditional nurturing role. For him, the mother embodied an archetype, a universal, symbolic image dwelling within the collective unconscious. In this view, the maternal figure isn't just about the personal history with your biological mother. It's everything she represents on a symbolic level: nourishment, protection, growth, but also control, fear, abandonment, and darkness. This paradox is critical because the same hand that nurtures can also suffocate. The same arms that shelter can sometimes imprison, and it's often here that deep emotional wounds begin to form, many of them remaining invisible through childhood. The mother's gaze is the first mirror through which the child begins to recognize itself. When this mirror reflects acceptance, security, and unconditional love, the child develops a solid sense of worth and belonging. But if the reflection is distorted, absent, or excessively judgmental, the child internalizes feelings of inadequacy that follow them well into adulthood: low self-esteem, an endless need for external validation, fear of rejection, difficulty in trusting oneself or setting boundaries. And the most unsettling part? Most of the time, we have no idea where these patterns come from. We just feel an invisible force holding us back, a silent chain pulling us into self-sabotage at crucial moments. We find ourselves attracted to partners who mirror old family dynamics, flee intimacy, or fall into emotional dependence without fully understanding why. According to Jung, this happens because the maternal archetype remains outside of us, unconscious, unresolved, and filled with idealizations or resentments. While the maternal image stays externalized and unintegrated, it controls us from the shadows. Importantly, Jung never advocated for blame or confrontation toward the mother. He wasn't about pointing fingers or cutting ties. Instead, he proposed something far more liberating: bringing the mother image into consciousness. Looking at her not with blind adoration or bitterness, but with clarity and maturity, recognizing her humanity, her wounds, her limits. When you stop seeing your mother as a goddess or a villain and start seeing her simply as a human being, something powerful begins to shift inside you. This is no easy process. Recognizing a mother's flaws often opens old wounds, wounds we spent a lifetime trying not to touch. But it's only by daring to face them that true emotional growth can happen. Only then can we step into full adulthood, into real autonomy, building an identity free from inherited expectations and family projections. The healing journey begins when we stop waiting for our mothers to give us something they perhaps never had to offer, because they too were carrying their own unhealed stories. And this is where transformation starts. When the mother stops being a ghost from the past and becomes an integrated part of your conscious self, she stops controlling your life. But what does it mean, practically speaking, to integrate the mother archetype? And how can we recognize the signs that we are still trapped in her unconscious shadow without even knowing it? That's exactly what we'll explore next. You might still be living under your mother's unconscious influence and not even realize it. Not because she intended to harm you, nor because you love her any less, but because unresolved emotional dynamics continue operating silently within you. Carl Jung explained that the maternal archetype always has two faces. One nourishes, protects, and embraces. The other suffocates, controls, and projects her own unresolved fears and frustrations onto the child. When this shadow side remains unrecognized, it continues to govern our behaviors in ways we don't consciously understand. Even in adulthood, we carry unhealed expectations, emotional voids, and behavioral patterns that seem to appear without reason. You might notice this when you find it difficult to make decisions on your own, constantly seeking approval from others, especially from authority figures or people you subconsciously associate with maternal energy. Or maybe you feel an overwhelming guilt for asserting your independence, for wanting something different from what your family envisioned for you, as if personal freedom were a betrayal of invisible loyalties. These reactions usually have little to do with present reality. They are echoes of a past emotional reality that was never fully understood. And until you bring these unconscious patterns into the light, they continue to repeat themselves, choosing relationships where you feel small, attracting people who seek to dominate or control, endlessly trying to please, to be good enough, to earn love that should have been unconditional. One of the most subtle and painful signs is the persistent feeling of emptiness. Even if everything seems fine externally, good job, stable relationships, loyal friends, you may still feel an unexplainable void inside, a deep sensation that something essential is missing. Often, this emptiness is the symbolic echo of emotional needs that were never fully met in childhood. The need to be seen, accepted, and loved exactly as you are, not as others wanted you to be. Jung emphasized that healing requires integrating the maternal shadow, not rejecting it. Facing the mother archetype means acknowledging both her gifts and her wounds, both the love she gave and the pain she caused, without idealization and without resentment. It's not about blaming her. It's about understanding the deep psychological mechanisms that shaped your emotional landscape. It's about seeing the truth of your own experience without self-censorship. Healing often begins when we allow ourselves to feel what we've forbidden ourselves to feel for so long. Anger, sadness, disappointment without guilt. Admitting that there were failures, that love sometimes fell short, that certain emotional needs were neglected, is the beginning of reclaiming your inner life. Because as long as these feelings remain repressed, they control you. What you don't express owns you. But when you bring them to light with awareness, their power over you dissolves. And then something extraordinary begins to happen. You stop unconsciously repeating old family patterns. You realize you no longer have to chase after love or validation. You learn to set boundaries without fear, to walk away from relationships that diminish you, to create a life that reflects who you are, not who you were conditioned to be. The Shadow of the mother loses its grip when it is seen clearly, when we stop acting out unconscious scripts and begin responding consciously. When we stop seeking in adult life what was missing in childhood and start giving ourselves the love, security, and acceptance we once yearned for. At this point, a new chapter begins. You move from being a prisoner of old emotional contracts to becoming the true author of your own story. But to make this shift real and lasting, it's not enough just to recognize the patterns intellectually. You have to cross the emotional terrain they inhabit, confront them, transform them. This is where Jung's concept of individuation comes in, the profound process through which we become whole by integrating the lost or hidden parts of ourselves. And understanding how this journey works is crucial if you want to break free fully from the unconscious grip of the mother figure. In the next section, we'll explore exactly what individuation is, why it's essential, and how beginning this path can transform not only your relationship with your past, but your entire life moving forward. Carl Jung referred to the process of liberation from the unconscious maternal influence as individuation, a word that may sound technical at first, but describes something profoundly human, the journey of becoming yourself beyond inherited patterns, unconscious masks, and outdated emotional contracts. It is the path toward inner wholeness, toward reclaiming your most authentic self. But make no mistake, this path is not easy or comfortable. It demands facing everything inside you that was repressed, distorted, or denied in order to be loved and accepted. It's about peeling off the protective layers you built throughout your life. The good daughter, the strong son, the obedient child. Masks you once wore to survive emotionally. Individuation asks you to remove these armors piece by piece until only your real self remains, naked, raw, free. One of the most important steps in this process is recognizing projections. As long as the maternal image remains unintegrated, we unconsciously project it onto other people, romantic partners, bosses, friends, mentors, expecting from them the love, attention, approval, or protection we never fully received. Without realizing it, we expect our partner to heal us. We demand that authority figures validate our worth. We seek from friends an unconditional acceptance that echoes the motherly embrace we missed. The major breakthrough happens when you begin to withdraw these projections, when you stop expecting others to fill your emotional voids, when you realize that no one else is responsible for healing your old wounds. Only you can do that. And this isn't about becoming cold, distant, or self-sufficient to the point of isolation. On the contrary, it's about finally assuming responsibility for your inner world with tenderness, with maturity, with conscious love. It's about becoming the nurturing, supportive adult that the wounded child within you still longs for. Individuation is at its core a return to oneself, a reunion with the exiled parts of your soul hidden away by fear, shame, or guilt. It's the act of gathering those scattered fragments, welcoming them, and weaving them into a whole again. And crucially, individuation does not demand that you erase your history with your mother. It asks you to transform it, to stop seeing her as the omnipotent source of all good or all pain, to recognize her as a beginning point, one that gave you life, yes, but not your destiny. The path of psychic maturity does not happen overnight. It requires silence, reflection, courage to sit with uncomfortable emotions, and compassion for yourself and for your mother. Because the moment you begin to see her not through the eyes of a wounded child, but through the eyes of a conscious adult, something extraordinary shifts. You realize she too carried her own wounds. She too was once a child shaped by forces beyond her control. She too struggled in ways you may never fully know. And from that place of compassionate clarity, you are set free. Free to love her without blind idealization. Free to forgive her without erasing the pain. Free to build a life based on your choices, not your conditioning. This is the real gift of individuation. It breaks the cycle. It releases you from emotional inheritance. It empowers you to write your own story. Carl Jung believed that true healing comes not by forgetting the past, but by illuminating the parts of it that still unconsciously shape us. And when you do that, when you turn on the light inside your inner world, you regain the most powerful freedom of all. The freedom to choose. Choose what to keep. Choose what to transform. Choose who you want to become. But how can you tell if you are already walking this path of individuation, or if you are still unconsciously trapped under the weight of your mother's shadow? And more importantly, what practical steps can you take to move forward in a conscious, empowering way? That's exactly what we'll explore in the next part. Because knowledge alone is not enough. Real transformation comes when you start living from that knowledge, moment by moment, choice by choice. Understanding is the beginning, but real transformation happens in the everyday moments. The small, almost invisible choices where you either stay stuck in old emotional patterns or start carving a new path forward. Liberating yourself from the unconscious influence of the mother figure means acting differently, feeling differently, being differently. The first practical step is awareness of emotional triggers. Start noticing the situations that destabilize you easily. Who makes you feel small? What events bring up disproportionate anger, sadness, or guilt? Most of the time, intense emotional reactions are not just about the present. They are echoes of old wounds tied to the maternal dynamic. Becoming aware of these reactions without judgment allows you to begin separating the past from the present. The second step is to cultivate an inner space for reflection. Whether through journaling, meditation, or therapy, create a space where you can listen to the internal voices that still echo inside you. The voice that demands perfection, the voice that criticizes your every step, the voice that doubts your worth. Often these voices are remnants of the internalized mother figure, not your true self. Rather than fighting them, recognize them with compassion, and then, little by little, begin replacing them with a more adult, nurturing voice, a voice that encourages, forgives, and strengthens. Another crucial point is identifying invisible loyalties. Without realizing it, many people live unconsciously tied to silent emotional pacts with their mothers, feeling guilty for succeeding, for being happy, for choosing a different path. As if by thriving where their mothers suffered, they were betraying them. Breaking free from these invisible contracts does not mean abandoning or dishonoring your mother. It means honoring her by transcending her wounds, not repeating them. Living fully is not a betrayal, it's an act of gratitude to the life you were given. It's also vital to analyze your relationship patterns. If you consistently attract people who are controlling, distant, emotionally unavailable, or demanding, you may be reenacting the emotional dynamics of your early maternal bond. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward change. Healing often requires establishing clear emotional boundaries and sometimes embracing periods of solitude, time to reconnect with yourself, away from old external validations. One powerful practice is symbolic visualization. Imagine standing in front of your mother, whether she is still alive or not, and mentally returning to her everything that no longer belongs to you. Guilt, fear, unrealistic expectations, gratitude for the life she gave you, and freedom to live it on your own terms. This symbolic gesture, when done with sincerity, can profoundly shift unconscious patterns and open space for a new emotional reality. And above all, practice self-acceptance. Offer yourself what perhaps was missing: presence, kindness, patience, unconditional acceptance. It won't happen overnight. But with every small, conscious choice, you rewrite your internal narrative. With every moment you refuse to abandon yourself, you break the old chain a little more. The ultimate goal is not perfection, but wholeness, to integrate all parts of yourself, even the wounded, messy, fragile ones, into a coherent, compassionate self. When you become your own source of love and validation, the mother's shadow finally loses its unconscious power over you. At that point, the mother figure ceases to be a weight carried unknowingly and becomes simply a part of your history, not the author of your future. And when this integration happens, a profound shift takes place. Life becomes lighter, decisions feel freer, relationships deepen with authenticity instead of unconscious need. The invisible emotional debt you've carried for so long is finally paid, not because someone gave you what was missing, but because you gave it to yourself. You stop seeking love through sacrifice. You stop building your life around invisible expectations. You stop abandoning yourself to fit into old molds. Instead, you begin to live from a place of truth, choosing partners, careers, and friendships not out of fear or obligation, but from genuine alignment with who you are becoming. This transformation also expands outward. You start to see other women, mothers, grandmothers, friends, strangers, not through the lens of expectation or resentment, but with deeper compassion. You recognize their struggles, their unhealed wounds, and their humanity. And thus, you break the generational cycle. You stop passing on what you received without questioning. You open a new path, not just for yourself, but for those who come after you. Perhaps this is one of Jung's most powerful legacies, the reminder that while we are shaped by our past, we are not imprisoned by it. We are born into a story, but we are also the authors of its next chapters. By daring to look into the places that hurt the most, we discover the doorways to our greatest strength. And now, the most important question remains: what will you do with this new awareness? Will you carry it forward as a torch to light your way, or will you let old patterns quietly reclaim you? The choice is, and always has been, yours. And if you want to continue exploring reflections that truly transform, stay with us. Here, we don't offer ready-made answers. We offer paths for you to find your own, because in the end, healing begins when you stop waiting for someone else to save you and start becoming the person you were always meant to be. Your past shaped you, but it doesn't own you unless you let it. See you on the other side. Take care and see you soon.